forester's choice.
Introduction. What a piece of work is man. How noble in reason, how infinite in faculty, in form and moving, how express and admirable. In action, how like an angel, in apprehension, how like a god. Beauty of the world, the paragon of animals. Shakespeare, Hamlet.
When our ancestors departed Earth, they asked themselves, which of our achievements represents the best of humanity, that we may bring it with us to illumine the darkness? The Federation, embroiled in a world of contracts and petty bickering, chose their constitution. They placed their trust not in man himself, but in an imperfect work of man. But my ancestor, your first emperor, was wiser. He knew that the best achievement of humanity was humanity itself. There was more wisdom in a single nucleotide of his noble DNA than in all the Federation's written texts. That same wisdom still guides us now. We need no dusty documents to assert our right. We are human, born to rule. And the universe awaits the firm hand of our governance.
Emperor Trascan Duval II, undelivered draft speech written immediately before his sudden and unexplained death. The Empire, while younger than the Federation, is easily the equal of its historic rival in terms of scale and resources. The key social distinction between the two powers is that slavery in the Empire is legal, a fact that has remained a source of controversy since its inception, both within the Empire and without. Some observers pointed out, however, that conditions for those at the lowest levels of federal society are far worse than those experienced by imperial slaves. The popular image of the empire is one of opulence, but while pomp and pageantry may be the norm in the core imperial systems, elsewhere in imperial space, one can find myriad examples of deprivation and squalor. Indeed, the empire encompasses many striking contrasts. Sophisticated technology exists alongside an ancient Roman system of government, and the affluence of the core worlds depends on often unregulated slave labor in the wretched outer colonies. Ruthless industrial efficiency and low taxation has made the empire rich and mighty. The hierarchy of imperial society is rigid, but a citizen can always rise through the ranks if he or she becomes wealthy enough and makes the right connections. Even a slave could, in theory, become a senator. The Empire. History. The Acheronid colony was founded. In the mid-23rd century, wealthy entrepreneur Marlene Duval was so frustrated with the federal government that she founded an independent colony of her own in the Acheronid system, chosen for its remoteness. When Marlene was killed shortly abolish the fledgling democracy that Marlin had set up, and in its place, he established a system modeled on ancient Rome. He was now emperor, and his closest allies were his senators. Any colonists who might have objected were forced into silent compliance with Duval's vision. Such were his wealth and power. It was also
Surface scan complete.
widely believed that Marlin Duval, like Remus in ancient Rome, had been killed by her own brother. Nobody dared to speak out. The Mudlark extinction. The colonists were aware that the planet they had settled, Achenar 6D, had indigenous life. But at first, it wasn't appreciated that this included a sentient species. Nicknamed the Mudlarks after they were observed digging through riverbank mud in search of food. Although the Mudlarks were at a pre-agricultural stage of development, they appear to have developed the beginnings of language. They also created crude forms in molded clay, with no obvious practical purpose, possibly indicating a nascent artistic culture. The Mudlarks proved fatally vulnerable to the bacteria carried by the colonists, and within a few decades of the colony's founding, the species was extinct. Rumors subsequently emerged that Henson Duval had purposefully removed all traces of the Mudlarks, partly in fear of federal reprisal, and partly to ensure that his development plans would not be hindered by ecological constraints. The Federation attempted to reclaim Achenar. When the federal government heard rumors that Duval's colony had recklessly caused the destruction of a sentient indigenous species, they decided on military intervention. The Imperial ships beat back the federal attackers, who were unable to establish a beachhead among the airless outer worlds, and struggled to maintain supply lines so far from Earth. The federal forces eventually fell back and entrenched in the Beta Hydri system. Skirmishes with Imperial ships continued for the next 50 years, but these were unable to prevent Duval from expanding the Empire to many other worlds. The Age of Expansion. After hostilities with the Federation ceased, the Empire entered a century of growth, annexing many new systems and persuading others to join. It spent the following 2 centuries consolidating its new territory, appointing colonial administrators from among the noble houses of Achenar. The Empire. Society. An ancient Roman model. The Empire works on a clean system. Society is divided into tiers: Emperor, senators, patrons, clients, and then citizens, with slaves below these. Groups of patrons pledge their support to a given senator, offering military service, tax revenue, and the right to wield the patrons' votes in the Senate on their behalf. In return, the patrons are granted a measure of protection and material security, as well as having their interests represented in the Imperial Senate. Senators are responsible for deciding tax rates and welfare systems for their patrons, meaning that the lower a given senator's tax rates, the more patrons he is likely to attract. This is far from being a patron's only concern. Loyalty over time, ideological compatibility, family connections, and discreet private deals can all play a part in deciding which senator to back. The system extends downwards through the tiers in a similar fashion, with clients pledging themselves to given patrons, and citizens pledging themselves to given clients. The votes held by the patrons actually comprise the total votes of all the clients pledged to them. Similarly, the votes held by those clients comprise the total votes of their pledged citizens. Patrons are therefore capable of investing variable degrees of power in their chosen senators, with the result that some senators are more powerful than others. Senators are responsible for those below them, meaning that everyone has a form of social security, at least in theory. Indeed, many senators take pride in the security they offer their citizens. Some have even been known to drain material wealth from small independent worlds and pump it back into the capital economy, allowing them to reduce citizens' taxes and giving their own popularity a considerable boost. Patrons are free to withdraw their patronage from their chosen senator, placing the onus on the senator to represent them satisfactorily or face a loss of voting power. rigid stratification. The division between social classes is formal, unambiguous, and strict. But there is a clear path to advancement. A person can pay a fee and petition for admittance to the rank above. In this way, slaves can become citizens too. The law is not the same for all. Senators have a responsibility to enforce the law, and they must obey the emperor's decree, but are otherwise above the law. A senator can even carry out executions personally with little, if any, fear of consequence. The Empire. Military. The Imperial Navy. Maintaining a modernized navy has always been a top priority for the Empire. The ever-present threat posed by the Federation has driven previous emperors to empty the coffers again and again for fear of being outstripped in the arms race. More recently, funding has come from wealthy individual senators, many of whom are all too eager to gain influence within the Navy. Indeed, it has been claimed that devastating planetary mining has been carried out in order to further this cause. The Facisi system is arguably the most significant Imperial naval base. Many officers are housed on the world of towboats, while Peter's Rec is home to the training centers. As well as the battle fleets, the Imperial Navy maintains a subdivision dedicated to exploring the fringes of known space. The Emperor's Own. Genetic engineering is not officially tolerated in the
Surface scanned by 50%.
but it does sometimes take place. One notable example is the Emperor's Own, a group of genetically engineered super soldiers deployed during the shock invasion of Mansfield Colony in the Leadless system in 2959. They proved brutally efficient, overrunning the federal defenses in a mere 2 hours and inflicting a rare defeat upon a federal Gurkha regiment. The Empire. Culture and values. The human body represents perfection. This belief, once held with mere religious intensity, still forms the bedrock of the Empire's culture and morals. Genetic modification is frowned upon, but a degree of genetic correction is known to take place, supposedly to correct defects such as vulnerability to certain diseases. The belief in the sanctity of the human body originates with the first emperor, Henson de Val. While he did not claim to be literally descended from the gods in the manner of Roman emperors of old, he declared that his own image was the paradigm to which others ought to aspire. Households across the empire were required to display a statue or bust of the emperor in a place of honor. Imperial citizens are therefore expected to shun habits that corrupt or defile the human body, such as excessive indulgence in narcotics. The ownership of slaves, by contrast, is tolerated in the same way that the ownership of any beautiful work of art is tolerated. Mistreatment of slaves is thus akin to vandalism. Keeping one's own body in peak condition and adorning it with jewels and expensive clothes is not vanity, but duty. And owning well-treated slaves is also considered a sign of good character. The Emperor's word is supreme. The Emperor's successor is decided by the Senate, although the de Val dynasty has such a strong power base that the imperial throne has only ever been occupied by members of that bloodline. For generations, genetic selection ensured that the Emperor's heir would be male, and the current ruler, Arissa Lavinie de Val, is the first woman to hold the throne. Marlene de Val is sometimes described as the Empire's first female ruler, but this is incorrect. The colony she founded was a democracy. Honor is everything. The value placed on honor is a constant throughout all tiers of imperial society. Honor can be lost through various means, including leaving debts unpaid, failing to respect a superior or provide for a dependent, breaking a solemn vow, conducting combat with cowardly weapons such as nerve gas, and defiling one's own body. Slavery is acceptable, but slaves must be well treated. In the Empire, it is not uncommon for the poor and disenfranchised to sign up for a period of military service in exchange for a small sum of money. A similar logic applies to imperial slavery, to the extent that someone might sell themselves into slavery to clear a debt and restore their honor. Selling oneself into slavery is a straightforward legal process and results in a guaranteed sum of money for one's family, so it is a popular option for the desperate. In practice, however, many find that it takes much longer than expected to clear their debts. People are also forced into slavery against their will. Sometimes a senator will sentence a person of lower rank to be stripped of citizenship and designated as a slave. But it is more common to impose a fine of such magnitude that the citizen has no recourse but to sell his or herself into slavery. Slaves may also be taken prisoner following a conflict, abducted from their home, or even captured in a hijack. While trading slaves is lawful everywhere, except on Emerald, taking new slaves outside of wartime is illegal without the blessing of the senator. The Empire. Diplomatic relations. The Federation. Resentment of the Federation runs deep in the Empire. The superpower is remembered as an oppressive, interfering force, a hypocrite. He avoids inflicting the slightest harm on non-human, but thinks nothing of forcibly imposing its values on its fellow humans, and lacking the freedoms and social customs that the Empire values so dearly. While open hostility has frequently been the case in the past, the current situation is one of grudging coexistence, beneath which mistrust simmers. Despite this antipathy, the Empire cooperated with the Federation in a series of joint initiatives against the Farhords in the early 3300s. The Alliance. When the Alliance was founded in 3230, following a bitter conflict with the Empire and the Federation, multiple systems defected to it from both superpowers. To the surprise of many, the Empire took very little further retributive action, partly because of the ill health of the Emperor at the time, and partly due to a belief that the defecting systems would return to their natural home sooner or later. The Empire's current attitude to the Alliance is one of studied contempt. To recognize it as a threat would be too much like showing respect. Internal politics. Unsurprisingly, for a society so concerned with rank and influence, the Empire contains a multitude of feuding power blocks. In particular, there is a good deal of bad blood between the various noble houses, whose values range from hardcore traditionalist to staunch reformist. The Imperial Senate is no longer as overshadowed by the Emperor as it once was, and has gained sufficient strength to act as a counterbalance to the Emperor's political will. The individual character of the Emperor still determines the Empire's overall direction, and the suggestion that the Empire should evolve out of its old ways has proven deeply divisive.
Golconda's inhabitants migrate to Forest of Choice. The crew of the Generation ship Golconda have migrated to their new home, the outpost Forest of Choice in the mrkIII system. Following a successful bid to assist the Golconda crew with their relocation, the Federation arranged for transportation from the ancient vessel to the outpost now in orbit around mrkIII. Communication with the Generation ship in the days prior to departure revealed a certain amount of trepidation among their people. But with centuries of space travel having exhausted the Golconda's ability to adequately sustain the colonists, the majority supported the decision to relocate. The Golconda's command staff also confirmed that they would continue distillation of the beverage out ability. This unique spirit will be on sale to traders from Forest of Choice. Professor Elizabeth Cohen, head of anthropology at Orion Independent University, was on hand to observe the mass resettlement. Many of the colonists openly wept as they stepped aboard the transport vessels, speaking words of thanks and sorrow to the Golconda itself. On several occasions, the emigrants broke spontaneously into song, with hundreds locked arm in arm. During the flight, I overheard a group of youths chatting excitedly about the technology that would be available to them, perhaps ignorant of the significance of their journey. But most striking was the people's collective determination to maintain their unique culture and to remain together as they enter this new chapter. It remains to be seen whether this society will retain its isolationist outlook or will integrate with the galaxy. We can only hope that these remarkable travelers from the past will be left alone long enough to explore 34th century humanity at their own pace. To celebrate this historic event, the Federation has announced that a purchase discount will be applied to federal ships between the 5th and 16th of December 3305. Federation delivers Kukonda's new home. The Federation has won the bid to provide the Kukonda's population with a permanent home, meeting a rival effort by the Empire. Both campaigns received support from the galactic community, but the initiative to create a new orbital outpost for the Generation ship's inhabitants ultimately proved more popular than the construction of a planetary port. An official message from the Golconda confirmed that the colonists were impressed by the superpower's success, and have agreed to migrate to the outpost once it has been completed. The outpost will be named Forrester's Choice to honor the captain of the Golconda, Jonathan Forrester. The Golconda crew have also accepted the status of a federal partner while retaining their autonomy. Congressman Harlan Turk made this statement. We are proud to offer a fresh start to a society descended from the Federation's forebears. Their unique culture will continue to thrive among the stars at an outpost that enjoys federal protection. Imperial Senator Rava Cornelius sent a message of goodwill to Captain Forrester and his crew. She admitted disappointment at the Golconda's decision but wished the colonists peace and prosperity for the future. Supporters of the Imperial and Federal campaigns can now collect outstanding rewards from their respective megaships in the Upanicles system. A gift from the Golconda. The inhabitants of the Generation ship Golconda have offered a token of gratitude to authorities in the Upanicles system for their recent help. The gift was a case of an alcoholic spirit labeled mrkIII, distilled only aboard the Golconda for many centuries. An accompanying note explained that the production technique has remained largely unchanged since the 22nd century. Analysis of the beverage confirmed it was safe for consumption, although nothing is known of the raw ingredients or distillation process. As yet, very few people have sampled mrkIII, but the celebrated gourmet and critic Giles Capalio was invited to appraise the spirit. Well, what a delight this is, to experience a previously unheard of libation. mrkIII is refreshing on the palate with a smooth, crisp flavor, but delivers a vigorous thump to the senses once swallowed. If it ever becomes widely available, connoisseurs everywhere would surely adore it. The Golconda crew is sitting atop a potential gold mine. Professor Elizabeth Perez of the Orion Independent University provided an anthropologist's take. This is a significant gesture from a society that has been highly reluctant to interact with outsiders. Although their isolationist stance remains prevalent, offering mrkIII could be interpreted as the start of a cultural exchange program prior to rejoining civilization. Superpowers compete over Golconda's future. The Empire and the Federation have announced rival initiatives to provide a new home for the crew of the Generation ship Golconda. During
Surface scanned by 50%.
the aid appeal by Upanicles Vision Incorporated, engineering experts confirmed that the ancient vessel can no longer meet the colony's needs. While the Golconda was designed for long-term habitation, it lacks adequate facilities for the current population levels. After lengthy discussion, the Golconda's leaders have reluctantly decided to abandon the vessel. But the ship's captain, Jonathan Forrester, has insisted that its population remain together in one location. The Empire has vowed to help the colonists complete the ship's original mission by establishing a planet-side home. Senator Rava Cornelius summarized the campaign. After generations in an artificial environment, we want to reward these travelers with a world to call their own, fulfilling their destiny after a millennium of adventure. Contemporary agricultural techniques will enable them to become a self-sustaining colony with full Imperial support. The Federation has taken a different approach, offering to create an outpost where the Golconda's spacefaring traditions can continue. This was outlined by Congressman Harlan Turk. These people have the inalienable right to continue their current way of life. A modern outpost will offer vastly superior amenities while allowing their culture to remain intact, with facilities for new trade relationships within federal market guidelines. Both superpowers have asked the galactic community to support their campaigns. Pilots can deliver polymers, CMM composites, titanium, beryllium and thallium to either of the megaships in the Upanicles system, the Lucent Embrace for the Empire, or Keller's Resolve for the Federation. The initiative is scheduled to run from the 18th to the 26th of November 3305. If the final targets are met earlier than planned, the campaign will end immediately. Golconda attracts superpower interest. The discovery of an inhabited generation ship has attracted attention from both the Empire and the Federation. A recent trade appeal in the Panicus system provided the Golconda with emergency aid. Each of the superpowers has since deployed a megaship to the area, along with proposals for integrating the Golconda's crew into the galactic community. Imperial Senator Rava Cornelius released this statement. This remarkable 1,000-year mission exemplifies humanity's indomitable spirit. We stand ready to help these colonists complete the mission by constructing a new planetary settlement exclusively for their use. There, they will finally be able to enjoy solid ground and open skies, in a colony that thrives under Imperial protection. Federal Congressman Harlan Turk outlined an alternative approach, as the descendants of a generation ship launched from Seoul. We view these courageous travelers as honorary federal citizens. We therefore hold that they are entitled to remain a spacefaring commune as their ancestors wished, and intend to honor their traditional way of life with an orbital outpost to call their own. There has been minimal communication with the Golconda, and only a select few representatives of Panicus Vision Incorporated have interacted with the colonists. Assuming that the freshly donated supplies can fortify this micro-civilization, vital decisions will need to be made regarding the Golconda's future. Golconda receives vital aid. The initiative in the Panicus system to provide the generation ship Golconda with essential supplies has concluded successfully. A statement was provided by Atsuko Harada of Panicus Vision Incorporated. Sincere thanks to all traders who delivered medicines and emergency supplies, and also to the brave pilots who protected these shipments against pirate raids. Transfer of the goods to the Golconda has concluded, and I understand they were accepted gratefully. The medical supplies were accompanied by representatives of the Interstellar Health Organization, who advised the colonists on their use. Team leader Dr. Ivan Johansson commented, "Our antiviral agents are far more advanced than those on the Golconda, and early indications suggest patients are responding well to treatment. Hopefully we have halted the outbreak of what the colony calls the wasted kiss. Reports from the Panicus government insiders indicate that communication with the Golconda has become more frequent, particularly in regards to technological advancements. Local media coverage has fueled public speculation that the colonists should abandon their ancient vessel and establish a new home in the system. Pilots who took part in the campaign can now obtain their rewards from frozen port in the new Panicus system." The Golconda generation. The culture of the generation ship Golconda has been examined by Professor Elizabeth Paris, head of anthropology at Orion Independent University. Little is known about the Golconda's origins. There are no intact records of its launch, and the lack of archived blueprints suggests a privately funded colonization attempt. But there's no doubt this microcosm of 22nd century society will have diverged over the past 1,000 years. The inhabitants' language is entirely comprehensible, however, and their social structure is recognizable. Rigid security measures are in evidence, as one would expect from an isolationist culture. We also know there is a custodian tasked with ensuring the community's well-being, and a chaplain who provides spiritual guidance. All signs point to contentment with, maybe even an addiction to, their spacefaring existence. While audio messages recorded by the Golconda crew are available to the galactic community, only a select handful of individuals representing Panicus Vision Incorporated have been permitted to dock with the Golconda. Professor Paris traveled to Panicus to speak with them as part of her study. Interviews with those who delivered supplies were fascinating. As one pilot put it, the loading procedures were done at top speed, hardly any chatter at all. Nobody on the Golconda entered the cargo bays before we left. I got the impression they were scared to deliver. History shows that isolated cultures can be irrevocably damaged by contact with outsiders. We must ensure that efforts to support the Golconda community do not destroy this unique bubble colony. Inhabited generation ship discovered. A generation ship with a living population has been discovered in the Panicus system. The ship's distress signal was initially picked up by a listening post. Investigating pilots were surprised to find that the ancient vessel,
Surface scanned by 50%.
identified as the Golconda, had drifted into the uninhabited region around Panicus B. Generation ships are huge, self-sufficient craft from the pre-hyperdrive era. designed to deliver their original crew's descendants to uninhabited systems. Launched in the 22nd century, the Golconda has survived for more than a millennium as the home of a self-reliant society. But it is believed the vessel's outdated facilities are struggling to meet the needs of its crew. The inhabitants have reported a lack of maintenance materials and medical supplies, the latter made more pertinent by a virus sweeping through the ship. Itsuko Harada with Panicless Vision Incorporated gave the following statement. These visitors have crossed incredible distances, entirely disconnected from the rest of humanity until now. Sheer desperation has forced these proud people to call for help. A disease referred to as the wasting kiss is running rampant, and in a closed environment its effects may prove catastrophic. Understandably, the Golconda's people are reluctant to leave their home or interact with the rest of the galaxy, at least at present. They have gratefully accepted our offer of medical supplies and other materials, however. Traders are asked to deliver basic medicines, advanced medicines, aluminium, ceramic composites and semiconductors to foes of port in the Panicless system. Panicless Vision Incorporated is also offering bounty vouchers on wanted ships to deter pirate activity in the area. The initiative is scheduled to run from the 8th to the
Surface scan complete.
14th of November 3305. If the final targets are met earlier than planned, the campaign will end immediately.
The Empire. Introduction. What a piece of work is man. How noble in reason. How infinite in faculty.
Surface scanned by 50%. Surface scan complete. Frameshift drive charging.